Hello, everybody. Welcome to Southside's first Échale Gas for July. Thank you for coming. Just curious, a show of hands, how many people this is their first time at an Échale Gas? Wonderful. How many people this is not their first time? Oh, good. We have a mix. Wonderful. Welcome. Come on in. There's some seats here in the front. And let me introduce myself. My name is Gabriela Cadena. I'm the CEO of Southside First. And what we do is we help connect small businesses with city, county, state, and federal resources. And so this is the beginning of 4 events that we're doing to increase resiliency within the Southside community. I don't know if anyone has noticed some things are getting more expensive. Inflation, anybody notice? Sometimes, because of the pandemic and other issues, there are supply chain issues. Anybody notice? Has anybody experienced labor shortages? Have you gone to an establishment and they say we're closed because we don't have enough staffing? So those are some of the things that we've been experiencing, and that's why we decided to do this 4-event panel. And we have one of our speakers actually from our next one, and that's Brenda Ans over there. Brenda, say hello. She's going to be talking about cost containment, so that's going to be August 2nd. And you can find all the information on Southside First. I just also wanted to tell you another initiative that we're working on is the city is opening an application for grants, and we're helping the small businesses apply for that. So we have one of the advisors here who comes into our office. That's Crystal Darby. So we have others that are not present, but we can set up a one-on-one appointment with you, and they can answer not only your questions about the application, but also I need access to capital. In fact, we have 2 bankers here. Can you raise your hands? Estrellita, Jefferson Bank, and Joe Peña from Frost Bank. Raise your hand. Yeah. And I just want to let you know, at the end, everyone will have an opportunity to introduce themselves. You'll have a minute, because there's a lot of power in networking and knowing who's in the room. In fact, we have someone from Congressman Joaquin Castro. Austin is here. So there's a lot of wonderful events. But I just want to let you know everything here about the COVID grant, and some of our other programs are on the table. We're working with an NBA star from the Minnesota Timberwolves. That's Torian Prince. He grew up here in San Antonio. We're doing a drive for school supplies as well as hygiene products. But let's get started on our panel. So we decided to have this conversation around the food and beverage industry because this is one of the biggest represented industries in the South Side, food and beverage. And we mentioned some of the challenges, and so we brought together a rockstar panel. And I would love for the panelists to introduce themselves. Can we begin over here? Richard.
Hi, I'm Richard Garcia. My brother and I own the Niches. We have 3 locations. Well, 2 locations officially right now. We're working on the 3rd one as we speak. So I've been in business myself for 37 years. It's been pretty much my entire life. I got another 20 or 30 more to go. So.
I'm Wendy Stiles. I'm with Southside Craft Soda. My family is Kielbasa, so we've been in this part of town in the food and beverage industry for a long time. I retired from them after about 20 years, and I've been working with Southside since last summer. Southside Craft Soda.
My name is Boyan Kalusovic. I'm a co-founder of Dorchel Distilling and Brewing Company. We're on the near south side off of South Flores, and I co-founded it with Chris, who's here with us today also. So, glad to be here.
Let's begin the panel by talking about if you were to begin a small business, in the food and beverage industry today, what advice would you give to the entrepreneurs?
Wow, I was put on the spot here. How do I not be cynical and say don't do it? Find something else to do. My business advisor's looking at me, and probably get more money than you think you need. Get help from partners that are going to help carry the day, and then find a group of supporters who are going to be there for you when work gets tough. You can't do it on your own. It's not a one-man shop. At least our shop is not, and everybody plays an integral part in making it click. whether it's on your internal team or folks externally through consultants, lenders, very supportive customers, things like that happen from a ground level, very organic for us. So I would encourage others to. I don't know if it's the right thing to do, but it's been working for us.
Same question. Yes.
Like what he said, as far as leaning on other people in the industry, I think San Antonio has a lot of. We kind of get focused on like that one thing that we do, but I think that there's so many organizations, and even the city of San Antonio, the city Department of Gastronomy, the UNESCO arm of the city. There's lots of independent organizations, people in the food and beverage industry, and there's a lot of. I think it's easier to do when you don't feel like you have to do it on your own. I think there's a lot of people that have, y'all opened up, closed down, have old family businesses, and I think there's a lot of wisdom in reaching out to some of the other people in the industry. I think the thing about San Antonio is that everybody wants to see people succeed. I don't think it's less competitive than you would see maybe in other cities, even in the same industry. There's probably more camaraderie than there is, competition. And the other thing is to not only have a great product, but to have a business built behind it, and not just think that you only have to have a great product because whatever it is, of course you're passionate about it, but you have to have some. A foundation, also, and also getting the advice, business advice, not just the product advice or the whatever it is you're trying to sell, but to take the advice or network with other people that have been through what you're going through.
I've been in the business for, like I said, 37 years, and I was fortunate enough to have 4 brothers. With me, there's 5. Everybody decided to have a taste of the restaurant at some point or another. So, little by little, they got weeded out. Some stuck with it, and one of my brothers stuck with it for 18 years. I worked with him for 18 years, and then he went out, and his twin brother, my brother, but his twin brother came in and partnered up with me. So one of the things that they said is find a good network system that you can count on. If you're kind of doing it solo, it's going to wear down on you real fast. This type of business hits you from every angle. It really does. It hits you on the business side of it. When you're trying to work with your product, hits you from a customer service side of it. The customers expect you to hit right on the point every single day in, day out. Hits you from a supplier's supply of it. Hits you from just trying to hire people. And even when you hire people, it hits you when they're supposed to be there at 5 in the morning, and all of a sudden maybe they don't call or don't even show up. Now what do? So you've got to make sure you always have a backup system in one way or another. Sometimes we try to simplify the work. Whenever I train my managers, I train them as if they're the ones opening up, so that if someone doesn't show up, they're not freaking out on what to do. They know exactly what to do. So you got to have that backup system. And then when it comes to the product, we make sure that everything's written down so anybody can follow it. And if they can't follow it correctly, then I must have not written it right. So I got to break it up to where they can understand, and the product's always consistent. Because we're about to have 3 stores, and we had 3 stores before. No matter which restaurant you go to, you want the customer to feel the same or taste the same product in all 3 restaurants. So basically, it's a tough business. That's no joke. It really is. It's a tough business all around. You got to be built for it. It's got to be your passion, and it has been. Initially, I started off in the banking business. Just working at the bank, and I decided to go into business with my parents. And so my dad told me, well, if you're going to get into the business, you're going to have to learn it from the ground up And so he put me to work every single position. I mean, from the dishwasher to cutting vegetables to the head cook to the line. And I did the same thing to my son. And so when he wanted to learn the business, and I told my son, you're going to be stuck in that position until you're better than the person that's training you. And so that's how he learned it. And, eventually he got weeded out of it. He thought it's too much. Yeah, it became too much. But like I said, it's a tough job. It's a tough job.
Yeah.
It is a tough. So, and I've done it even with managers. I've trained managers on someone that's, and I've realized and I've learned something through all the years that someone can be a fantastic employee. Doesn't necessarily make them a fantastic manager, So you have to learn to work with that. And you want and you hope for them that they'll be a great manager. And you go through the process of teaching them, and it turns out that they're not cut out for that because it's a totally different animal. But it's a whole thing. It's a process. And you just got to be patient through it and be diligent. Don't give up.
Thank you for sharing some of these pearls of wisdom. So I heard, have a good support system, not just your family, but like also a business advisor, lean on the city resources. Like San Antonio, I think we still are the only U.S. city with 2 UNESCO, recognized by the UN for being yes, yay San Antonio, city of creative gastronomy as well as for the missions. So lean on the city, and other kinds of resources. Find best practices and make sure you know all aspects of it. Here's another question. We don't know what the next bump in the road is going to be. What have been some of the strategies that you used recently to go through some of the bumps that you guys have experienced that we just talked about? Who wants to start first? Go ahead.
I'll start real quick. Some of the bumps for us and recently have been hiring. Before COVID, everything was just pretty smooth. But after COVID and after things are settling back down, I don't know why, but we're having a tough time hiring. It's tough. And sometimes they're learning where we'll just take anybody, but that doesn't necessarily work either. So you're trying to set your standards, but you're also trying to get them in. We even, on our Southside location, we end up having to close on Mondays because we were overworking the people we can count on. And then they were getting frustrated. And they were getting I can't take the working these long days and all that. So we had to cut back one day on Mondays now. That's specifically right now just for the Southside location. But we have to adjust, adjust your hours. Sometimes, adjust your days. And as long as you adjust, you should be fine. Don't force something to work if it's not going to work.
I'd agree with that. Being nimble, and being creative, and I think being honest, and in your communication too. That just looking at, and not just looking at today. You have to look out in the future as far as especially supply chain issues and that kind of thing. If that's you don't want to get caught without your supplies, and sometimes that's, you've got to pull resources from someplace that you wouldn't normally, or, if you've got to do some creative accounting to get, your, whatever it is, staying open an extra day, closing an extra day, spending more to hire somebody that, is going to show up. But I think just you have to be creative and nimble and not be set in your ways.
Hard to predict what the next bump is going to be. I don't think any of us could have imagined the mountaintop we've been climbing the last couple of years. But, being able, use the word pivot, right? It's become kind of cliche. but to be able to stay focused on what the end goal is, and then be able to fall on your team to execute regardless of what the bump is probably the best thing I could recommend for someone else. We've had, from being shut down to being essential to where we can only open certain days to where only certain parameters have to be met. some folks didn't want to go to work. Some folks felt scared to go to work. Some folks got sick and couldn't show up to work. And, a small team, everybody has to carry an equal load. And when someone's down, you got to carry the extra load. As as the operator, at the end of the day, the buck stops kind of with you, right? So, if the dish pit is backed up, then you better, roll up your sleeves and get in it.
That's right.
That's something we experience firsthand as, whether it's, extra deliveries or start early or end later or, some things you don't give up on and you just keep grinding it out. And, whether it's supply chain piece and you have to throw more money at it or that's usually the case, right? It takes a little bit longer and costs a little bit more. If that's necessary for the final end result, then you don't have a choice, right? You want to open that third location and you need that fire door to be delivered, right?
Right.
We're in the middle of a construction project and, the fire door that we got delivered after 25 weeks didn't get prepped, so we're having another one delivered. And apparently they're going to deliver it next week. So the first 25 weeks just, was for show. And, those are things that, those are bumps that you simply have to roll through.
Yeah.
And so we talked about labor shortages as one of the issues that you guys have been dealing with. Boyce, and I know you recently met with the high school culinary teachers. So that's one way, let's say, building the pipeline, the talent pipeline. And you talked about, really think about both. Several people have made the point. Really think about whether you want to do this because it's different to think about having a business versus actually doing it. Any other tips of what you're doing to build for the future?
I mean, there's a ton of culinary programs out there, but very few get to really dive into the entrepreneurial part of being a restaurant operator. And, you hate to kind of highlight the folks in the room, but some work that gets done at the UTSA's economic development stuff and the SBDC is, you might be a great baker and your pastries, or you're very creative in plating and things are killing on Instagram, but the banker still wants the cash flow statement or the income statement or the balance sheet. And, I've had the luxury of working with someone who's trying to do that right now. And, it's hard to point your friends holes in stuff, but they're really committed. They really think they ought to be running a bakery next week. And, you're kind of wondering, it's like, okay, well, how are you going to pay for anything? And, you're going to fall off the payroll at your current job because you're going to have to bake at your place at 4 a.m. now. And, where's the money going to come from kind of thing. And being able to lean on those resources that are free, but still having to put forth the effort, right? You can't just expect somebody else to do it for you kind of thing. And the economic advisor does a really good job of being able to bring some of those pieces together, whether you're an existing business or a to-be business. And, we found that at UTSA's SBDC. So I'd encourage others to turn to that.
Any other tips on how you're building for the future?
For me, it's all about when we hire, anyone we hire, I want them to feel that they want to come to work, that they feel like this is the place they really enjoy to come to work. And so I make sure that I introduce myself and I try to get to know as many of my employees by name. I come in the morning, good morning, John, and I try to stress to everybody that when it comes to the customer, every single job is important. Every single job. Even when you're in, and anybody should know, everybody knows this, that when you go to the restaurant, at least I do as well, to any restaurant, if I go in and the restrooms stink, and then it's like, okay, I don't want to be at this restaurant. I mean, this is the way they want to treat the restrooms. How do they treat the things that, I can't see and smell? And so I make sure that all my employees are valued at whatever they're doing. It's a vital part of the business. It all comes together. Everybody's job is important. Everybody's. And I want to make sure that they appreciate being valued. And so I got to remind myself to constantly, say hi to everybody, make everybody feel concerned. And the employees themselves, sometimes they're going through a personal issue themselves and they can't concentrate on their work. So we got to work with that as well, and be patient with that and try to, work with them to get their work done, but at the same time, don't try to have a whip behind everybody thinking, come on, we got to have 100, this right now. And no, we just got to work through all that. It's every day is working with the employees and making everybody put in their best effort, and not only that, teaching your employees to be each other's support, to be there for each other, because nobody wants to work at a place where it's like, oh, I can't stand working with this guy. Okay, I can't stand working with her. But now they're not going to work, and they're not going to help each other out. So if I want to relax as a business owner, the better they function together as a unit, the better it runs itself.
Thank you.
I would say, kind of going back to what we talked about before, just the leaning on other people in the industry and that networking and learning from them, and I would say that's where your best guidance would come from on kind of what to do and what not to do, and again helping each other build their businesses. I just think that there's so much to be gained from that.
Okay, great. Daniel owns an insurance company, and he has some tips for things that restaurant owners and food and beverage people need to consider. Would you like to share?
Well, when it comes to insurance coverage for restaurants, one of the most important things you want to make sure you have as a restaurant owner is coverage for breakdown of equipment, because as you know, food product is one of your biggest expenses. And so I know there's a restaurant owner I know that this last year when we had that big freeze, her agent didn't have that coverage on the policy, and she had to throw away thousands of dollars in food product because she couldn't turn in a claim on it. So I'd say that's one of the big coverages, and you always want to be prepared for midterm audits, because carriers in Texas have gotten a lot stricter with policies they're issuing and making sure they're properly rated. So when you go in to meet with your agent and you're providing annual gross payroll, annual gross sales, you want to make sure you're giving that agent the most accurate numbers you have. That way, if you have a midterm audit, things are matching up. And in some instances, if you're having growth, that midterm audit may show higher numbers and they adjust the premium. And in a case where it's a carrier that doesn't do premium payments, it has to go to premium financing. Well, when you go into the premium financing, if there's a midterm audit, there's a premium increase. That premium increase is not part of the premium finance package. So you're going to get stuck paying that increase in premium all in one shot.
Thank you, Daniel. That was a lot of information. I think if I had a question, I would have to come to you and rely on the experts and talk to the small business advisors, because you guys are pointing to, I may, like you said, be good at plating or, baking something, but I may not know the other things that impact the success of my business.
Hi, Lupita Gutierrez here with United Community Pantries. I have a question. I wanted to circle back to the conversation that you were talking about, the COVID impact, because I think it's important, and especially with the platforms that we have here today, we can get information out to the community. Now, the past couple of years, I've been spending time visiting pantries to give food back into the communities. The past couple of months, I've been visiting restaurants and talking to restaurant owners about the COVID impact. And you're not alone. Every single restaurant owner that I spoke to said that they are struggling. They're having to close. They don't have people coming in. They have to close another day. What message can we as community leaders send back into our communities to come and support you? Also, how can we help you network and get people wanting to come back to work? Because what I'm seeing is a lack of motivation. It's a lack of motivation. I don't know maybe you can answer some of this, what your thoughts are on why people don't want to come to work.
Who wants to take that? Any part of that?
Not with a 10-foot pole.
That's the $1 million question.
That's right? One of the questions. How can we get the community to know about you, Like, because I mean, there's so many restaurants in the South Side, any one place. You know, how can we
Come together as a community.
yeah.
Because unity builds community.
And it's
That's a good. Somebody should trademark that if it's not already. That's a bumper sticker. Oh, she's already got it.
Community
That's
builds
a not so subtle.
Do you think that y'all do a lot of community events to incorporate and try to get like employees involved? Maybe ask some of the community.
I think we all come from a different space, so maybe I can talk about ours. We're a pretty small team. At the moment, we're 7, maybe, and all 7 show up to an event regularly, kind of thing. We're in the business of making alcohol. Most people show up to things like that, period. So I feel like we have a little bit of an advantage. I mean, right? It's going to make it through COVID. There's a lot of bumps that are, I think, affecting us. Not necessarily all, whether people are showing up to feel engaged, right? The motivation that I think you touched on is a much more fickle subject matter. You get 2 different employees, 2 different generations. One can't wait to show up a few minutes early, another one that just won't stop snoozing. Okay, how do you solve for that? I don't know, maybe you fire and you get a different employee. Or you just be okay with them being 15 minutes late because some other things that they do really well. So you just, I don't know, you tell them to show up 15 minutes early knowing that they're not going to, so you plan the day around it. I don't know, right? I'm not a parent, so I wouldn't know how to do it with a kid. I don't know how to do it with a young employee. Half the day has got to be babysitting anyway. And maybe babysitting is not the right word, but at times it feels like it's appropriate. The bumps on, I think, general business sense, when you depend on a supply chain to be steady so that the prices that you charge remain steady and you see fluctuations in there, then that pressure is, beyond just do the employees want to show up to work, right? Our team is small, we all show up, but you're getting squeezed anyway. We do a group health insurance plan piece, and we've accepted that that's forever going to be an increasing expense, both as a percentage of payroll and as a percentage of revenue. So we just suck that up. But when that's translated to your cost of goods sold, and for us, the cans have gone up, or the grain goes up, or the paper that, the cardboard that goes up, and when those letters get to you from the supplier and it's a 10, 15, 20% increase piece, and it's not the first one you've gotten this year, those pressures get to be a little bit harder to just motivate the crew through. Eventually you simply have to charge more, right? And we're in a particular category in the on the shelf where there's the least amount of inflation that got transferred to the customer, because it is such a competitive space, and there's conglomerates that control a bunch of it, so that doesn't help. But at the end of the day, all those pressure points are separate from employee or employee development. So utility expenses, if you're building out a next space, we're in the middle of a little project and we've been at it for almost a year, 10 months now, and whatever bids you might have gotten 3-4 months ago, you toss them out the window, because if you haven't got it delivered, it won't matter, because by the time you want it again, it'll be a totally different price. And it's not just, your 10% over, estimate plus thing. I don't know, 20, 30% might have covered it, maybe not, motivation almost seems like the easy part for us. It's kind of like, all right, how do you do the rest of the things fall into place so that your scalability can get improved, so that you can try to control your costs a little bit better, or whatever. I don't know how that applies to. I mean, you guys are manufacturers, so that's similar. But on the restaurant side, I don't know what a couple hundred employees, or
we have about 120 per restaurant, give or take, about 140.
My 7 are Stellars.
Yeah. I know we would, years past, we were hired, like, let's say for a busboy. We could hire like 15-year-olds, stuff like that. Now it's more delicate. You can't hire until they're 18 in order to be able to sell alcohol. So that's you're kind of restricted with that. But even at 18, and I don't know if I'm speaking for the entire community. I'm just going to tell you my own experience that I just had recently. I thought it was funny myself. Was that I have 2 stepboys, and my wife, and I didn't know this until I got home. She asked if they wanted to help out to pay for the groceries, because they just got paid for some work they did for me, and they're like, "Well, that's our money." I said, "Well, yeah, but that way you can understand, how much things cost. I tell you what, pick what you think what you want to get, and you pay for it." So sure enough, they did, and they got their stuff, and all of a sudden, one of the boys thought $40 was going to do it, and he was going to get like 3 bags full of groceries. So, here comes a few items, and like, oh shit, it's already passing, like, Mom, and so so they go, okay, I'll cover it. So I thought that was funny in itself. Then that evening, they're going with their father, so they want to take the food that they bought with them. So I thought, well, now they put value to what they earn, and I just think that maybe there's too much of a community that's making it too easy for everybody else. They need to, learn the value of what things really cost and how hard it is to make money. And so if it starts at home, where everybody's teaching the children value and what it takes to earn, maybe more kids will be out there looking for jobs. I don't know, So, yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's just.
So do you think that us as community leaders, we could create an event to have youth and kind of train them the value of the dollar in union with some of the restaurants and businesses?
Yeah, get them introduced.
Fun, motivated, so
right.
We're not just helping you guys, we're helping the community,
yeah.
and teaching the youth.
I think that a lot of the young people, when they come and they start physically having to work, it's a shock to their system. So
there's nothing harder than food business and kitchen business, and unless you've done it.
Again, I think there's a lot of opportunities to go seek out employees instead of waiting for them to come to you. We've got St. Philip's, we've got Palo Alto has some great programs. They've just started a vintner program, so that and then the food bank has the culinary education program. And so there's lots of places to go seek out employees for the food and beverage industry. So, and I think, think about if it was you and some of the stories of the people going through the culinary program at the food bank are pretty amazing, from either there was a guy that was a computer programmer from USAA, and then there's been, people that were homeless. So to be sought out, in that kind of environment, versus going and filling out an application someplace, to be picked instead of have to, turn in an application. I think there's, and there's other programs with the high schools, and so but it's just finding the ones that are right for your business and seeking those folks out.
Thank you, everybody.